if it looks like you're having deja vu
from last week, you are. Sorry, something's wrong. No, actually, we are still in my living room, and we just decided to tape 2 in a row because I am in Florida. When you're watching this, I'm in Florida with my family, so we couldn't tape together, so we thought we'd tape 2 in a row. We had great plans of
taping by myself.
Like changing clothes and making it look like it wasn't the same day. But do you really care? No, you don't. That is just us like trying to be something we're not. And we all know
professionals.
That. Right. That's ridiculous. So we thought we would just tape 2 in a row, and it is getting super close to Christmas while you're watching this. Christmas is 1 week from today when you're watching this, and the chaos is coming. It is here everywhere. Like, even traffic is worse right now. The malls are crazy pants.
Even if you're online shopping, like,
right? Things are crazy.
Things are like
people
running out while you're in the checkout, or like you having to wait in line to check out, like at Target.
Yeah, things are crazy. Even, and we have so many family things that are going on. We have large groups of people getting together, and stress is heightened a little bit because of Advent. So when our longings are heightened, like we talked about last week, if you haven't watched last week's video, please go back and watch it. It's super important. We talked about the stress of Advent and the longings. When everything's heightened, we're also just a little bit
easily
sketchier
offended
with other people. Yes, easily offended. And we were talking today about that, about being easily offended, about how somebody cuts you off in line in traffic, and your first thought is like, why don't you even care about me? Like, you're endangering my kids. I can't believe you jerk. Instead of,
like, wow, they're in a really big hurry. I wonder what's going on with them. Or just even having, even just letting it go.
Right.
Quite
like,
frankly.
Maybe
like,
it
even
wasn't
just
about
being
me.
like, oh, well.
Shocking. Maybe that person
paying attention.
who's rude has had a really bad day. Mm-hmm. And so it reminded us of our new favorite book. Everybody go buy this now. We will be a full-on advertisement. Rising Strong by Dr. Brené Brown. Actually, buy everything she has ever done. Watch every YouTube video. Become as obsessed with her as we are. You won't regret it.
I mean, it's a problem.
No, it's amazing. And one of the things she talks about that has felt like a throat punch to both of us.
Yes.
Like, hello, what is going on here? Is she talks about the stories we tell ourselves.
Right.
And so in that line, when you're in traffic and somebody cuts you off, the story you tell yourself is, that person is such a jerk. They weren't looking at me. They cared more about themselves than they did me. Instead of trying to figure out what the real story is. And we do this all the time. In all of our interactions, there's a story playing on in our head. She actually explains it, that our brain rewards us for making connections and to having stories, because we are built for story. We're built for connection and for things to make sense. So just like when you're doing a puzzle and you get a piece together, you're like, yeah! Do you do that? No. When you do a puzzle? If it's a hard puzzle, not like a kid's puzzle. I'm not super excited then. But when the pieces match, there's
a reward center.
Dopamine.
Yeah.
In your reward center that goes in your brain. That's why I'm doing this. There's a brain stem right back here. And so we do the same thing when we create stories of other people.
Right. So if you don't know the true story, then what your brain does is creates a story.
Yeah.
And so more so than a stranger doing something to you that you find offensive, it's particularly hurtful when it happens in your family. It happens with people who
in your marriage
you love, in your marriage,
in your friendships. That it's like, oh, I see on Facebook that they all went Christmas caroling together, and I wasn't invited. Someone must be mad at me. I wonder, blah, 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 and you like rabbit trail these stories you've told yourself.
And then they're all talking about you.
Oh yeah,
and then it's like this big, like none of them can be your friend anymore. No. And it becomes...
It's the stories we tell ourselves. Sometimes we go super far with them and it destroys relationships. And sometimes it just puts us in a funk. Like, well, that was rude and I can't believe that. Mm-hmm. When we don't even know if it was true.
Right. Or like, this happens to me sometimes on like Facebook statuses. So you'll have an interaction with somebody and then they post something on Facebook about like,
people who are fake.
People who, yeah. And you're like, oh,
they're so talking about me.
Are they talking about me? Is that meant for me? Why would they do that? That's so... And then you're offended and you're upset because they posted something and it had to have been about you. And like, but
it's not true.
You don't know. It's not
so
true.
many times it's not true. The stories we tell ourselves are things that we need to examine. So they're not things that you get to toss.
Right.
Because you have to figure out, what story did I just tell myself? Perhaps it's in your marriage. That's her example, and something that we were just talking about that happened with you and Jesse this week. Perhaps it's in your marriage when you're like you're trying to be funny.
Yeah, okay.
We won't tell the whole story because I think it might be a little racy. Trying to be like funny and sexy a little bit, and he's like, "What? I don't even." And he just walks away. And you're like, and the story could be, he doesn't think I'm sexy anymore. He like doesn't think I'm beautiful. He doesn't even want me. Da 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 da. And you go down this huge rabbit trail when he's like, I don't even like whipped cream.
You kind of just told the story.
I know, but
the thing that really did happen, which was hilarious. So he says, I don't like whipped cream, and I made this face like, sad.
Thanks anyways.
But I had just read him the story from Rising Strong, so he came running back in 2 seconds later and was like, wait! I feel like that was a thing, and you were swimming, and I was like, water, and then that was it. Right.
The swimming in water is part of the Brown story.
But he immediately got that he was in his own head, and I was in my own head, and that they were not
that the stories
meeting up,
might
and
conflict.
the stories were conflicting, and he wanted to make it better immediately. And so we want to challenge you. I mean, obviously, not everybody at your dinner table has read Brené Brown, though they should.
Yeah. Get it for everybody for Christmas.
But so it's up to you.
Give emotional help this Christmas.
It's up to you to check yourself.
Yep.
Check the stories you're telling yourself, and to check the people around you and see if their faces fall. Yeah. When you say something, or like if they suddenly turn cold, instead of you reacting in offense because they have suddenly turned cold, talk to them about maybe what they're thinking about something you said or something that just happened. Yeah. The story that they're telling.
Because you can examine your stories and you can ask others for theirs. And you can even share, you can call a friend. I actually just did this a couple weeks ago and said, here's the story I'm telling myself. Is that the case? And you can call a friend and say, can you tell me about the story that's going on in your head? Yes. So I can even tell you if that's true or if that's what I've said. Or it looks like the story in your head might say that I don't think you're attractive. Your husband. I don't have a story. Nobody's going to say that to me. But Jesse could have come to you and said, your face may have fallen because you might think that that's not appealing to me. And really, I just don't like whipped cream. Like, this was not about me not liking you. Right. And so we have to do the work to examine our own stories. So when we feel ourselves getting frustrated, whether it's with the cashier at Target, the person in traffic, or our family at Christmas dinner, the question is, what is the story in my head? Story in my head is that person doesn't care about me, or the story in my head. And what if we began to give people the benefit of the doubt? I had a friend who was really passionate about this, and it taught me so much because it was a good question for me. Right. You have to assume. Am I assuming the best about you or about even a stranger? Like, what if the stories in my head always were the best about that person? Like, oh, I bet they're having a hard day. Oh, I bet... Right. You're really stressed about having people over to your house for Christmas dinner, and that this isn't about you not wanting me here. It's about you being stressed that you had to have your house clean and you had to cook all of these things. And
to be able to say, this is the story I told myself in my head. Can you just tell me what you actually meant, or what was actually going on in your heart and in your head when we walked this out? And I think that more often than not, somebody will be horrified at the story you're telling yourself in your head because it's not what they intended. And then if the story that you're telling yourself in your head matches pretty much with what they think, then you need to examine that relationship too.
Exactly. Because we want you, as beautiful and beloved ones, to know the truth about who you are, and to have the stories in your head reflect that, and to have the relationships in your life reflect that. Because it is only from a place of wholeness and from a place where I understand my own value and I am in healthy relationships that also believe my value and that also contribute to that. And so we're all working together to live out our own truth about who we are. That's when we can change the world. And that's when we can speak beauty and belovedness over a hurting world. So this Christmas, that's our prayer for you. For this next year, as 2016 hits, and for this Christmas season, like, our prayer for you is that you would know your beauty, that you would know your belovedness, that you would surround yourself with people who do too, and that God would do a beautiful thing in you that begins to change the world.
Yes. That is our prayer for you, because you are beautiful.
And you are so beloved.
And we're glad that you're with us. If you want to download the app, the link is down there. You get these videos every Friday.
Download it. It'll be the best thing in your 2016.
Or subscribe to our YouTube video here as well. Our videos.
Watch them all.
Here as well. And let's just journey this together. Let's learn what it's like
together
to be beautiful and beloved.
We're not going to have a video next week. It's Christmas. So Merry Christmas from us already.
Merry Christmas. Do you want to do it like that?
Merry Christmas.